Okay. So what we're going to do today is something called factoring. Okay. It's going to be the most important skill, okay, that you learn in 10C moving forward into your grade 11 and grade 12 math, right? So if your goal, which I'm assuming it is because you're in 10C, is 20-2 or 20-1, and 30-2, 30-1, all of those courses, you have to know how to factor. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn them off. You have to be able to factor to continue in different subject areas, not subjects, we're just doing math, but different chapters. Like once we start doing quadratics and rational expressions and equations, future chapters that you're going to have to go through, we have to know how to factor. Okay, so, and the reason why I kind of stress it at the beginning is usually the first day it just takes some practice. It's not that it's really complicated, it's just a little strange the first day. That's why we're going to spend at least 4 days doing it, okay? Is because by the time we're done the 4th day, you'll be able to factor in your sleep. So what is factoring? Okay, so do you guys agree that you should be able to expand these? This is not factoring. Should you guys be able to expand those polynomials? So that's what I want you to do first. Because if you can expand the polynomials and simplify, which is what we've been doing the last couple days in class, then you should be able to factor, right? So we're basically going to take the skills that you know how to do here and work our way backwards. That's all we're going to do. Okay, so go ahead, do the first one. See if you actually know how to expand it, right? So try it, look up when you're done. So we're going to expand 3 binomials times binomials. That's what we're going to focus on to be able to factor, is working backwards from expanding 2 binomials together to undoing it. Okay, so go ahead, do the x plus 2, x plus 5. It's all about looking at the pattern. Everybody get 7x squared, or sorry, 7x squared, not 7x squared. X squared plus 7x plus 10 for the first one. Okay, for the second one. Again, you're not really looking at too much of anything right now. You're just seeing if you have the skills to be able to take 2 binomials and expand them and simplify them. And then we're going to look at all 3 of them and see if we can see anything that's common. And please, guys, if you do not know how to expand these, put up your hands. Let me come explain again. Right, we're just using distributive property, or if you're using your area model, both will work fine. Even if when we start factoring, you can use both methods of undoing what we're trying to do here. Any questions or concerns with the second one? We're all good with 2a squared plus 9a minus 5?
Yeah.
Okay, let me catch up with the last one. So the last one expanded it. The two middle terms canceled out in that one. Right, so hopefully you guys are left with an x squared minus 25. So the biggest thing with all three of these questions, we're only multiplying a binomial times a binomial, okay? And within those binomials, the first one's always a linear term. You guys see how they're both linear and they're the same. Well, in this situation, they're the same. But the first two, they're both linear. So that means degree ones. And then the number on the end is a constant. Again, they don't have to be the same, but they're constants. And then when we expand them, okay, we get a trinomial once we simplify it, okay, in a very specific form. Hopefully you guys are noticing the pattern. For the most part, the first term in this pattern is always a degree 2. The second one is a degree 1, and the third one is a constant. Okay, that happened in all three cases. It's just in the third case, that middle term, it was there, it just ended up canceling out because it ended up being the same number. But if you guys look at the actual math, was there always two terms in the middle that went together? Yes, that's important that you guys see that. Okay? Because what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you this final step. Right, so this x squared plus 7x plus 10, or a 2a squared plus 9a minus 5 versus an x squared minus 25. I'm going to give you that final step, and you're going to have to come up with the two brackets, okay? Because it's always going to be two brackets, two binomials, unless we just do GCF, which is not today, okay? The two brackets that you would use to multiply to get that trinomial, or in this situation, binomial. I know that sounds like it might be complicated, but I promise you it's actually not at all, okay? I'm going to use the method of inspection to do it. There is another method. If you look in your textbook that you have at home, it probably has it in there. I'm not going to show that method unless after 2 days you can't do it the way I want you to do it. Just because I know that if your goal is -1, the other method is time consuming and it gets confusing once we start factoring trig functions, right? So if I can get you to be okay with inspection, which I have a pretty good track record. I don't think I've ever taught the other method in my 25 years of teaching. So trust me, the first day you might not like it very much, or it might just be different, okay? But I promise you by day 4, every single one of you guys will be able to factor quite efficiently if you put the effort in. If you don't put any effort in, I can't teach you anything. All right, so we're going to go backwards. So the other thing I want you guys to notice, right, this is how we're going to use inspection, guys. I promise you it's not going to be that complicated. I'm going to give you something that looks like this, okay? And then you're going to drop 2 brackets. And then we're going to fill those brackets in by just kind of not guessing completely, but literally kind of guess and check. But hopefully you guys notice the first 2 things in the brackets are always going to be the 2 things that multiply to give you the first term. Do you guys agree? So does that kind of limit, does that basically tell you what has to go at the beginning of the brackets? You're not really guessing at all. The only 2 things that are going to multiply to give you an x squared are x and x, okay? I kind of ignore the middle number to begin with because the last 2 numbers always will multiply to give you the constant. But this is where it becomes not tricky, but is there other numbers than 2 and 5 that can get you a 10? Yeah. So that's where you have to be checking. I need a 7 in the middle, right? Because so a 1 and 10 work to get me a 7? No, there's no way that these 2 numbers here can get a 7 if I use 10 and 1. And again, I know that sounds a little bit confusing right now, but that's kind of the process that we use to work backwards, is kind of just focus on the first one, right? We're going to focus on this one because that's what's going to go in the beginning of the brackets, the 2 things that multiply to give you that. And then what we're going to do is focus on the last number and figure out, okay, what 2 numbers can multiply to give you 10? That's what's going to go in the back end of the bracket. Then that's where the inspection comes in. Did the numbers I choose expand to get me that middle value that I need. And when we start factoring, guys, the polynomials that I'm going to give you are not going to be crazy like 500x squared plus 45x minus 28. Would we be there forever? Yeah, because there's so many different possibilities. Even once you guys hit your grade 11 math and your grade 12 math, your polynomials that you'll be factoring will be numbers that aren't huge, right? They're not going to be, you're not going to have 100 possibilities to try. Because if that was the case, then we would be like, where this is headed is we're going to be solving quadratics. So if you ended up having really big numbers, you were taught another way to solve that. You wouldn't solve it by factoring it. You would solve it by quadratic formula. So again, none of that this year, but I'm just trying to show you guys where this is headed. This is a huge important skill at the 20 level and at the 30 level. But don't freak out that you are going to think that these polynomials are going to get huge and huge numbers. They never will. This level, next level, or the following level. Because they could be nasty if these numbers were huge. All right, so something like this, do you guys agree that it follows the pattern? Degree 2, degree 1, constant. If it follows that pattern, guys, then it's going to be factorable, the ones that I give you, okay? So then we just drop our brackets, okay? Because that's what your goal is. What are the two brackets, two binomial brackets that are going to multiply out to get me that m squared plus 10m plus 21? So again, just focus on this one first, right? So this one, you only have one choice to put. What two things multiply to give you m squared? M and m, so that's what you put in. Please do not, I do not put signs in till the very end. So this is where you have more than one choice. So if you're really good at your multiplication tables, this is going to be easier for you. If you're not, it still will be fine, but you'll have to think a little bit harder than the rest that do know their multiplication tables. So 421, the obvious one, which is this one, I would say 9 times out of 10 is not going to work. Okay, so that's the easy one. So what's another two numbers that multiply to give you 21? Right, 7 times 3. So if you didn't know that, then you would go on your calculator. This is what I would suggest to you. You'd go on your calculator and go 21 divided by 2. You know that's not going to work. 21 divided by 3. That would work. So you'd write that product down. 21 divided by 4. You'd see that that doesn't work, right? And those are the only products that multiply to give you 21. So then put your 7. It's, again, the other thing I'm going to kind of keep giving you little hints. Probably 85% of the time, it's going to be the two numbers that are closest together, right? So when I mean closest together is something like 12. Do you agree that 12 has a few numbers that can multiply to give you 12? But what's the two numbers that are closest together that give you 12? 3 and 4. Okay, so again, you have to check it, but 85% of the time, it's the two numbers that are closest together that usually work. So let's put 7 and 3 in. So again, the next thing you look at, am I kind of ignoring the 10 right now? Yeah, cool. I am ignoring the 10 right now. So I'm going to try this combination. So let's put those numbers in. Notice how I haven't put signs in my calculator yet, or my calculator, into my brackets yet. No signs yet. So go back up here, guys. Hopefully you guys maybe are kind of seeing it already. But if we go back up to our expansion, where the inside number comes from, look at the inside. The inside gave us the 2x, right? The outside gave us the 5x. Those two go together to always give us the middle term. So that's all you're going to check, is you're going to check the inside and the outside products to make sure that middle term is going to be created. Right, so let's see. The inside gives us a 7m. The outside gives us a 3m. Can I make that combination? Because picture those two middle terms beside each other. They're like terms. They go together either through addition or subtraction, and I need them to add together. Would you guys agree? So they both need a plus. So then that's how I know what my signs are. Because I already know that the m squared's there, and I already know the 21's there. That was what I look at first. So just check the inside and outside combination. That will always give you the middle term. Okay. So a little bit, not horrible, hopefully. Some people get it the very first day. Usually by day 2, everybody has it. Okay. When I say has it, everybody understands it the first day. It's just a little bit overwhelming. And to figure out the combination takes practice. So for this one, again, drop our brackets. So we're looking at this first. So what are the only two numbers that multiply to give me 2? 2 and 1. So I have to use 2 and 1. And then I break up the x squared. So it has to be a 2x and a 1x. Does not matter which one you put in which bracket. You just write them down. Okay. So if somebody chose to put the 1x here and the 2x here, and another person beside you chose to do it backwards, it doesn't matter. It's the second number that matters. Okay. So what do you guys want me to put in the first one? 2x, sure. And again, it doesn't matter. Right? The first one doesn't matter. So ignoring the 7 for right now, now I'm doing 15. Ignoring the signs for right now as well. And you guys will see by day 3, you'll be putting the numbers in your head before you write them down to see if they work. So with 15, again, please 95% of the time ignore the obvious. 1 and 15 is probably not going to work. So do not try that one first because you're wasting your time. So what's another number that multiplies to give me 15? Right, 5 and 3. Is there anything else that multiplies to give you 15? No. And again, if you're not sure, then you would try 15 divided by 2 doesn't work. 15 divided by 3 doesn't work. Or does work. We already wrote that one down. 15 divided by 4 doesn't. 5 we already did. So that's it. As soon as you get to the other number in the factor, guys, that's as many as can happen. Okay. So that's the one I'm going to try. So this is where it does matter where you put it, but let's pretend we have no idea. So what number do you want me to try in the first bracket? Do you want me to try the 3? Sure. So if you try the 3, and right now, literally, guys, we're just going in blind. You won't go in blind by day 3, right? But right now, I'm just saying go in blind. Try it. So I heard Blaze tell me to put in 3, so I'm just going to put 3 in there. So let's check. So please have an eraser. Especially the first day, you might have to erase it and change things. So let's check to see if this works. So the inside gives me a what? 3 times x gives me a 3x. And the outside, when I multiply, it gives me a 10x. Are those like terms? Yeah, so I definitely can put them together. So now you have to look at those numbers, guys, and say, can I get a plus 7? I can subtract them, right? The 10 has to be positive, and the 3 has to be done. Right? So the 10 has to be positive, and the 3 has to be negative. So just be careful here, guys. The negative, this gives me the 3x. That means this negative goes into the first bracket. This outside gives me the 10x. That means the positive has to go into the second bracket. Okay, so then put your signs in. So students usually like it because it's kind of like a little puzzle. Right? You might the piece that you put in the first time might not fit, so then you just switch it. Okay, but you guys picked perfect for this one. Is that kind of making sense? Not horrible? Okay, so for this one, and please guys, if you have any questions as I'm doing this, please, please, please ask them. Because it is a little abstracty a little bit what we're doing here. Okay. And I promise you guys, if I ask you to factor them, they're going to follow the pattern, right? It's degree 2, degree 1, constant. Sometimes there might not be a middle one, which I'm sure we'll get to today. but we'll talk about that when we get to it. You still factor it the same. All right. So for this one, remember there's just ones on both of the first two terms, so just drop my brackets. What are the two things that'll multiply to give me a squared? Just a and a. All right, so 12, this is a number that has a few more factors, right? So it's 1 times 12, which again, I'm completely ignoring. So then the next number that goes in is 2. So 2 times 6. So now I try 3. So 3 times 4. And see how, guys, the next one would be a 4, but is 4 already included on the other side? So yeah, so that's where I stop. That's as many factors as possible for 12. So with this one, which is the two numbers closest together, 3. And so that's really large. So that's the one I'm going to try first. Is anybody getting to the point already that they know it's going to be 3 and 4? Right? Because we're trying to get a 1, right? So I'm hoping if you get there already today, perfect. But you will start seeing, guys, if you see your factors, you know the one that's going to work already, just because you're kind of seeing the middle term play out, right, as you do them. If you're not there, that's okay. You're just going to put the 3 and 4 in. Right now, guys, since both your first two terms are exactly the same, it's a and a, it doesn't matter where you put the 3 and 4. Right? If somebody puts it in the first one and somebody else puts it in the second one, we get the same thing. Right? So I'm just going to put them in order. I'm going to put the 3 in the first one, 4 into the second one. The only thing, like I said, that you have to be cautious about that usually students make mistakes is their signs. That's it, right? Because does the signs in the bracket make a difference?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that's why I always just double check and put my signs in last. So the inside, I always check my inside first, and then I check my outside. And the reason why I'm doing this check, guys, is specifically for my signs. Because I need a negative 1a. So I definitely need to subtract them. Okay, so one has to be positive, one has to be negative. But since I need more negatives than positives, right, I need a negative 1. The larger number has to be negative, and the smaller number has to be positive, right? Because if you can't visualize that, right, I need a negative 1. Right? And an A. I can't put the A on the calculator, but I need a negative 1A. So then, again, guys, if you check the inside first, that sign always goes into your first bracket. If you check the outside second, that sign will always go into your second bracket. So then it'll be plus and a minus. The other thing, guys, could you check every single one of these to make sure you're right? Could you expand that and confirm that it's a squared minus, like, actual do what we did up here? Yeah. So that's the other thing, guys. With factoring, you should never get a factoring question wrong because you can check every single one of them. Whatever two brackets you say is your factored answer, you could do the whole expansion and see if it actually simplifies with all the proper signs back down. Okay. All right. Oh, so we finally got to one. So this one, right, still is a degree 2. It has to be a degree 2. You're only factoring in 10 and 20 degree 2 polynomials. Once you get 30 dash 1, not 30 dash 2 doesn't factor them, but 30 dash 1 will factor degree 3, degree 4s, and degree 5s. But up till grade 11, only degree 2s. So this one, hopefully you guys kind of notice these numbers here. Are they special? A 4 and a 25 are what kind of numbers? We just finished doing a bunch of them in the radicals unit. What are they called? Perfect squares. Okay. This is called a perfect square binomial. It factors beautifully because you're going to get two brackets. I'm just going to show you what we did up here. See this one, how it broke down to just a binomial, right? A degree 2 binomial. For that to happen, the polynomial that you're factoring has to be perfect squares because you're always going to factor them down to two brackets that are almost identical, right? The only reason why I say almost identical, see how one is positive and one is negative? Because what happens, if that happens, is the two middle ones will always cancel out. And that's, if these ones, guys, that we're trying to factor right here, if these weren't perfect squares, it wouldn't be factorable, right? So if I give you a binomial, degree 2, it will be a perfect square binomial. And you just factor them the same way. So you drop your brackets. And that's the thing, guys, I'm not going to change gears this whole chapter, and even in 20 and 30, I don't change from one question to another. All the factoring I do by inspection. Okay, so what are the two things that are going to multiply to give you 4v squared? 2v and 2v. Because remember, we're trying to create two brackets before we put the signs in that are exactly the same. And then the two numbers that have to be the same that multiply to give me 25 are 5 and 5. So students usually like when they see those, right? Because they're very quick. There's not a lot of thinking involved. You know that you need two brackets that are exactly the same before you put your signs in, right? And the only way that that can happen is if these are perfect squares, which they will be. So then now, not that you have to check this, but I want to show you guys. See how the inside gives you a 10v. The outside gives you another 10v. I need those to disappear. So therefore, one has to be what? Negative, and one has to be positive. It doesn't matter which one you make the positive bracket and which one you make the negative bracket. It's the same thing, right? So if I did this as a minus and this one as a plus, but you guys all said the first one was a plus and the second one was a minus, it's the same thing. Doesn't matter. You just can't make both brackets plus or both brackets minuses, right? Because then these guys, these 10s, wouldn't cancel out. Okay. All right. So I'm going to do one more and then let's try a few on our own. So this one looks bigger, but realistically, guys, it's not horrible at all. So let's drop our brackets. So 6 does have a couple combinations. It could be 6 or 1 or 3 and what? 2. So guess which one we're going to try right off the bat? 3 and 2. We'll try it. And remember, guys, worst case scenario, it doesn't work and we have to erase it, right? Because we can check it. Once we put all our numbers in, we're going to check. Normally the first two, okay, I don't change out until I try all the possibilities of the second one. So let's just, again, what do you guys want me to put in the first one? 3 or the 2? 3, sure. And again, it doesn't matter. You just go with it because the inspection will all play out. So now we have 5. So we actually only have one choice to try for 5, but it will matter where we put the 1 and where we put the 5. So right now we're just doing inspection. I'm not really thinking ahead of the game. So which one do you want me to put here? Do you want me to put the 1 here or the 5 here?
1.
Sure, let's try that. Okay, so if I put the 1 here and the 5 here, oh, this one's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to write both down. Not that I would be using an eraser, but I'm just going to write both down so you guys can see them. You guys don't write both down. Because do you guys agree that those were the two choices we could have done? So I want to check both of them. So if I do this one, this gives me a 2x, and the outside gives me a 15x. Can I get a 13 out of that? I can. But if I get a 13 out of that, the 15 has to be positive and the 2 has to be negative, yes? Okay, don't write this down, just kind of watch for a second, guys. So therefore, I'd have to put a negative here and a positive here. Does anybody see a problem with that? What's the problem? Yeah. So this doesn't happen a lot where it looks like we could have two answers because there's only ever, guys, one answer. That's why the signs matter so much. So this combination worked beautifully for the 13, but it screwed up the 5, right? So we can't use that actual combination because Negative 1 times positive 5 gives me a negative 5. So let's try the other combination. So this one can't work just because it messes the 5 up. So the other one that we could have tried was this one. So let's check this one out. So this gives us a 10x. And this one gives us a 3x. So can this one work? Can I get a 13 out of a 10 and a 3? Yeah, and they both have to be positive, because positive 10 plus positive 3 is positive 13. So both signs will be a plus. Now, does that work for the 5 on the end? Yeah. So that was, we literally did 5 questions, guys, and that's the first one out of all 5, because you guys have been telling me where to put the numbers, that we actually had to try a second time. That's pretty good. And we just started. Because I promised you guys with practice, do you guys think you're going to start trying to put the numbers in before you actually write them down and trying to check the inside and outside? That's kind of where I want you to get to by day 4 for sure. Okay. So that's the winner. Right. And this one, like I said, because of that one sign, and very rarely does this happen where it got to the middle number, but the signs didn't work. It happens maybe 1 out of 15 questions that you'll try. Right. So with this one, you guys go ahead. So 24 has a few combinations. So let's just make sure we're good with all the combinations. So 24, 1 times 24, which we always pretty much ignore. Right, what's the next one? Right, and just go through the order, guys. Go 1, does 2 go in? Yep, so then 2 times 12. Does 3 go in? Does 3 go into 24? Yep, 3 times 8, right? And then does 4 go in? Yeah, 4 times 6. Does 5 go in? Nope. And now I'm back to 6. I already used 6, so that's where I stopped. And you don't need to write them down, but I'm going to write them down the first day so you guys know these are the ones you're trying. Okay? So go ahead, try it. So drop your brackets. And hopefully if you see all that, you can kind of see which one you have to use. But if not, so I know I for sure can cross this out. Is 2 and 12 going to work, guys? So if I use 2 and 12, right, it's going to give me a 2 and a 12. Is there any way a 2 and a 12 can make a 5? No, so I can't use that one. Is 3 and an 8 going to work? Can a 3 and an 8 get me a 5? Yeah. Can a 4 and a 6 get me a 5? No. Again, I need a minus 5, so I do know I need to subtract those two. So please make sure, if you know that you're subtracting the number, put the negative, right, on the number. I know that I need more negatives than positives because I need a minus 5. So the negative needs to go on the larger number, right, and the positive on the lower number. And like I said, guys, if you tried those other ones, right, if you would have put the 4 and 6 in, there's no way you would have been able to get a 5, right? If you would have tried the 2 and 12, right? So at the beginning, sometimes you might have to do 3 tries, okay? But believe it or not, guys, most students, right, pretty much all students, the first day, it's usually never not more than 3. It's usually by 2, they've got it. Right, so you guys go ahead and give this one a go. Right, so I'm now going to kind of work behind you to make sure to see where you're at. So if you get that one done really quick, just keep going ahead of me. So now I'm just going to kind of go behind you guys. You ask questions if you get stuck. And remember, guys, if it's okay if you don't have your multiplication tables memorized, you can generate them off your calculator. Okay, you just start at the 1, divide by 2, see if it works, divide by 3, see if it works. So keep going until you start to overlap the numbers. I just finished saying that we don't have ones that look like more than one can work, and here we have another one. Because this one, it looks like maybe 2 and 12 could work, but it also looks like 4 and 6 can work. But which one do we have to use, or which one did you guys use? 4 and 6. Bless you. Because if you use, bless you, if you use 2 and 12, you have to use opposite signs. And do I need the signs the same to get a plus? Yes. All right, so I do have to use 4 and 6. And I'll show you guys why 2 and 12 don't work. It's the same reason why the other one didn't work. Right, because I need a negative 10. So they both need to be negative, which then multiply to get you the positive 24 that you need. What's wrong, guys? So guys, is it making sense why I can't use the 2 and 12? I'll write it down here why I can't use it. Right, so if you do 2 and 12, the 10 works out. Right, so see how the inside, when you multiply, gives you a 2b. The outside gets you a 12b. Yes, I can get a minus 10 by putting a negative on the 12 and a positive on the 2, but watch what happens when I put those signs in. So basically do a checklist. Does this times this give you the b squared that you need? Yep, so that's checked off. We're good there. Do these two middle ones give you the minus 10 that you need? Yep, so we can check that off. We're good there. But the problem comes in at the last step. A positive 2 times a negative 12 gives me a negative 24. So that's why you cannot use the B scenario, right? The one in the blue, right? But the one in the red, B times B, is going to be squared, right? The inside gives you the negative 10, right? The two middle terms, which are like terms that we can add together for addition or subtraction, gives me the negative 10. But then a negative times a negative is a positive. So the red checks all the boxes. Okay? Everything has to line up with the expansion. Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that usually confuses students though, but absolutely it still expands the same. Yeah, I see more of that in grade 11 and 12. Yeah. All right. So any other questions or concerns with this one, guys? Are we okay with it? Okay, keep going. Is everybody good with generating their factors? You literally start at 1, work your way down until you run out. Do 2 next. And the ones that give you decimals, those are the ones you skip. What are you guys using for 36? Perfect. So any issues with 8? Any questions with 8? I'll kind of keep pausing. You guys keep going way ahead of me. But stop me if you see something I do that you don't understand. So guys, with 9, what'd you use? Remember guys, if you're still not sure which numbers you should be using, that's okay. Put them in and check them. Worst case, you're racing. Right, so walking around, I see most you got this one now. So what 2 numbers are you using for this one? 4 and 4. Right, because 8 and 2 is not going to work because that will get you a 6, right, or a 10. 16 and 1 is not going to work because that's going to give you a 17 or a 15. Because you can just look at those combinations, guys. When these are both 1s, right, this only works when these are both 1s. You can literally just look at the numbers. Can 4 and 4 get you 8? Yep. Can 2 and 8 give you 8? Nope. Can 1 and 16 give you 8? Nope. And again, you can only do that when the first 2 are only 1s. You can look at the numbers straight away, right? So 4 and 4 can definitely get you an 8. Right, see how that gives me the 4A? The outside gives me a 4A and another 4A. I need a -8, so they both need to be negative. Which again, do your checklist in your head. 8 times 8, checklist. Right, the 2 middle ones gives me the -8, checklist. Negative times negative is a positive. All 3 check out. So this one you should get on the first try because you only have one combination for both. Right, m times m and 2 times 1. Inside gives me a 2m. Outside gives me a 1m, which works nicely because I can get a 3. I do need to add them, but I need it to be negative. So to add them to keep it negative, they both need to be negative. Hopefully that one was done quickly, because you only had one choice for both. Okay, so give this one a go. So some of you are done all of them already. So if you're done, right, I'll get mine done in a second. But if you're done all of them, just go to the lesson that matches this one in your assignment. And please, guys, if you're like getting the hang of it really quickly already, awesome. But please practice this. I can't stress enough. You cannot read grade 10 and not read the factor. So you will be on page 6 and 7. I know it's a lot of repetition, guys, but trust me on this one. If you can get very efficient at this, it's easy marks. And your 11 and 12 math, not that it's all factoring, but a huge part of, especially at the grade 11 level, we factor in chapter 1, no. Chapter 2, yes. So chapter 3 we do, chapter 4 we do, chapter 5 we do, chapter 6 we do, chapter 7 we do, chapter 8 we do. Only 2 chapters we don't factor in. And it's not just factoring, it's we have to factor to be able to do the new material. That's 20-1. 20-2, not as many chapters, but a lot of chapters there as well. 4 quadratics. 4 chapters in that one. Right, so this one was a little bit more thinking involved. So I'm going to use 3 and 2 to begin with. And next week, guys, I'll give you a couple more little hints that will help you eliminate possibilities. But right now, I've given you enough information to get pretty efficient at it, I'm hoping. And trust me, guys, after next week, you wouldn't even have tried this one. Because I'll tell you a little, like I said, another little hint about why you would know this one won't work right off the bat. But right now, you try it. See that we can't make a 5 out of it. So I'm not crossing them, like erasing them, just because I want you to see. Oh, I tried it. It didn't work. I moved on. So this one, the smaller combination, doesn't work. I had to go to the 4 and 1 to make it work. Are you guys happy about seeing these ones? Are they quick? Right? One's positive, one's negative. And remember, guys, if you're doing yours and you look at mine, and you had the minus in the first one and the positive in the second one, remember it's the same thing. What can't be different though is if this one you had the signs in the opposite brackets, then it's wrong, right? Because then your actual middle number will be opposite. It'll be a -5 instead of a +5. So guys, what I did with you today was just basic factoring. I am going to add a little bit extra stuff as we work our way through it next week. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to change our platform of how we do this, working backwards. But I'll add like GCFs and stuff like that. So it will get a tiny bit more to it, but not a lot. So it's a must that the foundation part of this little piece goes well. So guarantee guys, if you do, I think there's like 20. How many are there? If you should not have any homework, because you guys have a good 25 minutes right now. And if you do have a little bit of homework, that's okay. So in your assignment booklet, let's just see how many there are. So there's 20. So if you can get through those 20 and then create says, yeah, so 2 of your own, then you should be rocking for next week with the extra little stuff that I'm going to add.